We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. This is called respiration. Air enters through the nose, which has two openings, called nostrils. These allow air to enter and leave the nasal cavity. The pharynx, also known as the throat, immediately follows the nasal cavity. It is a passageway for food moving and for air passing between the nasal cavity and the larynx. The larynx is your voice box. It allows air moving in and out of the trachea, and it blocks foreign objects from entering the trachea. The trachea is your windpipe, which is a cylindrical tube that extends downward where it splits into right and left bronchi. The lungs contain air passages, alveoli, blood vessels, connective tissue, lymphatic vessels, and nerves of the lower respiratory tract. Now we'll talk about inspiration and expiration.
Inspiration begins with contraction of inspiratory muscles to increase thoracic volume. This results in expansion of the lungs and an increase in alveolar volume. At the end of inspiration, the thorax and the alveoli stop expanding. Airflow into the lungs causes alveolar pressure to become equal to barometric. Because they become equal, no more flow of air can occur. This allows air to flow into the lungs. During expiration, the volume of the thorax decreases as the diaphragm relaxes and the thorax and the lungs recoil. This ends in a decrease in alveolar volume and an increase in alveolar pressure. Since the alveolar pressure is now greater than barometric air pressure, air flows out of the lungs. It continues to flow out until the two pressures become equal. Now I will describe spirometry and respiratory volumes. Spirometry is the measure of air volume in which different degrees of effort and breathing move different volumes of air in or out of the lungs. This also describes four distinct respiratory volumes. Tidal volume of air that enters or leaves during a respiratory cycle. Resting tidal volume is the volume entering and leaving in a resting inspiration and expiration. This is about 500 milliliters. Inspiratory reserve volume is forced maximal inspiration volume of air. In addition to resting tidal volume, enters the lungs, and this is also known as complemental air, and it constitutes to about 3,000 milliliters, as well as expiratory volume, which is during maximal forced expiration, is about 1,100 milliliters of air, in addition to the resting tidal volume. This is also known as supplemental air. The body regulates respiration. Respiration is a process of exchanging gases between atmosphere and body cells. This constitutes of movement of air in and out of lungs, which is breathing and ventilation, exchange of gases between the air and lungs and the blood, which is external respiration, transport of gases by blood between lungs and body cells, exchange of gases between blood and body cells, which is internal respiration, and oxygen use and production of carbon dioxide by body cells of process of cellular respiration.
Now I'll describe how oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported into the blood. Oxygen is picked up in the lungs by hemoglobin, which is found in red blood cells. The hemoglobin then transports the oxygen to the cells that need it. And when they release the oxygen, they pick up carbon dioxide. They carry the carbon dioxide back to the lungs, which is exhaled. Now, we all know smoking is harmful to the body, but how harmful is it to your respiratory system? Well, smoking causes the cilia to malfunction. The cilia is used to push dirt and mucus out of your throat. Smoking also makes the alveoli in the lungs more round. This decreases the surface area of it and results in less oxygen filling the lungs, and so it's harder to breathe. The carbon monoxide found in cigarettes sticks to the hemoglobin instead of the oxygens, so many organs don't get as much oxygen as they should. Also, smoking increases the risk of lung disease.